The courtyard of the Silverfang fortress was silent, suffocating under the weight of 1,000 watching eyes. The moon hung high, round, merciless, silver, and it glinted off the marble steps where Lyra stood, barefoot and trembling, before the man who had once been her everything, Alpha King Darius Hale. His voice, once the sound that made her heart tremble, now carried nothing but cold finality. "Before the pack, and before the moon goddess, I reject you, Lyra Vale, as my mate and as my Luna." The words hit her like a blade to the chest. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. The bonfires cracked and hissed, the wolves surrounding them murmured, and the mark on her neck, the mark that had once burned with warmth and belonging, turned to ice. Lyra's knees wobbled, but she refused to fall. She stood there, head held high, even as her heart cracked open inside her chest. "You're rejecting me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Because I can't shift." Darius's jaw clenched, but his eyes were unreadable. "Because you're weak. A Luna who cannot defend her pack endangers it." Lies. She saw it in his eyes. The same eyes that used to soften when he looked at her now hid something else. Fear, shame, guilt. But she knew better than to beg for truth. Begging never saved anyone in this world. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some pitied her, most didn't. The pack had always whispered, the Luna without a wolf, the mate the moon goddess got wrong. Lyra felt the humiliation burn hotter than the cold night air. She wanted to scream, to remind them that she had led beside him for years, that her words had tempered his rage, her love had made him merciful. But the more she looked into Darius's eyes, the clearer it became. He wanted this. He wanted her gone. "By law," the elder said, stepping forward, "the rejected Luna shall be stripped of her title and exiled beyond the northern borders. If she returns, she dies." Lyra swallowed the scream clawing at her throat. She looked one last time at Darius, the man she had once believed was her destiny, and saw a stranger wearing his face. "Then may your throne rot without me," she said softly. Darius flinched, almost imperceptibly. But when she turned away, he didn't stop her. The mark on her neck faded into nothing as the bond snapped. The sound of it wasn't physical, but she felt it all the same. A ripping in her chest, a hollow where warmth had lived. Her wolf, the one that had never fully awakened, whimpered somewhere deep inside, a fading echo. Lyra didn't cry as she was dragged from the courtyard and thrown into the cold. She didn't cry when they stripped her of her cloak or when the gates slammed shut behind her. But as the sound of the howling pack faded and only silence and snow remained, she sank to her knees, fingers digging into the frozen ground. "Moon goddess," she whispered, breath fogging in the night air. "Why give me a mate only to tear him away?" The wind didn't answer. Snow began to fall, soft and cruel. Hours later, she stumbled through the dark woods beyond the borders, her feet bleeding from the icy ground. She didn't know where she was going, only that she refused to die within sight of his walls. The trees whispered around her, their branches groaning under the weight of snow. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her body weak, her mind swirling with memory. Darius's touch, his laugh, the way he'd promised, "You're my forever, Lyra." A cruel joke. When the first growl came from the darkness, she wasn't surprised. Yellow eyes glowed between the trees, rogues, scenting blood and weakness. 4 of them, maybe 5, circling like vultures. Her body screamed for her to run, but her limbs were heavy, her energy gone. She backed away slowly, heart thundering. The lead rogue, a mangy scarred wolf with broken teeth, snarled and lunged. Lyra stumbled back, slipping on ice. Pain tore through her leg as claws grazed her skin. "No," she hissed through clenched teeth, pressing a hand to the wound. "I won't die for him!" The wolf growled, crouching low for another strike. Something deep inside her chest stirred. The mark may have faded, but her soul wasn't done fighting. "Come on then," she whispered hoarsely, rising to her feet. "If this is where I die, I'll die standing." The rogue lunged again. She threw up her arm in reflex, only for the air to shimmer between them. A gust of energy, faint and golden, exploded outward. The wolf slammed into an invisible barrier and yelped, stunned. Lyra staggered, blinking. What was that? The glow faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving her trembling, confused, and still surrounded. The rogues regrouped, growling low. One leapt at her again, too fast to block. She braced for impact, and the air shattered with a deep, feral roar. A blur of shadow crashed into the rogue midair, snapping its neck with one brutal twist. Another wolf lunged, but the newcomer was faster, tearing through the pack like a storm made flesh. Snow sprayed crimson beneath the moonlight. Within seconds, silence returned. Lyra blinked through the haze of exhaustion, her vision blurring. A tall figure emerged from the mist, cloaked in black, the scent of smoke and steel clinging to him. He knelt before her, brushing his hand gently against her bleeding leg. His touch burned, warm, alive, powerful. "Who are you?" she rasped. The stranger's hood fell back, revealing eyes like molten gold. Wolf eyes, ancient and unreadable. A faint scar cut through one brow, giving him a look both dangerous and divine. When he spoke, his voice was low, rough and reverent. "My queen," he murmured, "you survived." Lyra stared at him, too shocked to move. "I don't even know you," she whispered. "You will," he said simply, rising to his full height. Behind him, the snow swirled as though bowing to his presence. "The moon marked you for more than rejection, Lyra Vale. Your story isn't over. It's only beginning." Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. The stranger extended his hand, palm open, his expression both dangerous and kind. "Come," he said. "It's time the world learns what happens when a Luna is cast aside." Lyra hesitated, glancing back towards the kingdom that had banished her, towards the man who had broken her. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the faint howls of the pack that had once been hers. Then she took the stranger's hand. The snowstorm swallowed them both. Chapter 2. Snow fell thick and slow, blanketing the dark valley in silence. In the distance, the fortress of black stone, once a ruin, now blazed with torchlight and the echo of drills. Swords clashed, wolves roared, the sound of an army reborn under the command of a woman who had once been left to die. At the highest balcony stood Lyra Vale, no longer the fragile Luna of the Silverfang pack, but the rogue queen, scarred, unyielding, and cloaked in black fur lined with silver. Years had passed since that night of rejection, but she could still hear the Alpha King's voice in her sleep. "I reject you, Lyra Vale, as my mate and Luna." She had woken from that nightmare more times than she could count, sweat cooling on her skin, hand pressed to the faded scar where the bond mark had once burned bright. But the mark had never truly vanished. It pulsed sometimes, faintly, like an ember refusing to die. "Report," she said, her tone sharp as the wind. Kyle stepped forward, his boots silent on the frost-slick stone. The same man who had saved her years ago, still cloaked in shadow, his golden eyes burning faintly in the torchlight. His presence was both comfort and warning. No one ever really understood who or what Kyle was. But he had followed her from that first night, and never once asked for gratitude. "The northern tribes have pledged themselves to your cause," Kyle said. His voice was deep, smooth, controlled. "The West is fractured. Half the Alphas fear you. The other half want to join you." Lyra smiled faintly. "Fear is a good start." Kyle tilted his head, studying her. "But fear won't hold them long. They'll want blood. And when they find out who you're planning to challenge..." "Let them," she said, turning her gaze towards the distant horizon. Beyond the jagged mountain range lay Silverfang territory, her old home, his home. When Darius learns that the mate he threw away commands the strongest army outside his walls, he'll know the cost of betrayal. The wind picked up, swirling snow through her hair. Beneath her cold expression, a storm brewed. She trained every day, fought every night, And yet one memory refused to die. The look on Darius's face the day he turned from her. Cale's eyes flicked to her hand, where faint gold veins shimmered under her skin. It's happening again. Lyra curled her fist, hiding the light. Ignore it. I can't, Kyle said, stepping closer. That glow. It's power, Lyra. And it's growing. No ordinary wolf carries magic like this. I'm not an ordinary wolf, she said bitterly. I'm the Luna he rejected. Maybe, Kyle murmured, his voice softening. Or maybe you're something more. The moon doesn't mark mistakes. Lyra turned away. Compliments didn't feed her soldiers. Faith didn't win wars. She moved down the stone steps towards the courtyard, where a dozen warriors knelt, waiting for her command. Men and women from fallen packs, outcasts, hybrids, each had found purpose under her banner. As she passed, they lowered their heads. My queen, they murmured in unison. That title still felt strange on her tongue. She had once been Luna, loved by her people, but controlled by her Alpha. Now she was queen, loved or feared, but free. A roar of challenge split the night air. Lyra's gaze snapped toward the training ring. 2 wolves circled each other, one massive and dark, the other smaller, silver-furred, snarling with defiance. The crowd cheered, stomping boots against stone. Ronan's testing the new recruits again, Kyle said dryly. He thinks breaking their bones builds loyalty. Then he's about to learn what I think of that, Lyra said. She descended the steps, the crowd parting instinctively. The 2 wolves froze mid-fight as she approached. The silver one bled from the flank, but still stood tall. Lyra's voice was calm, but edged with command. What did I say about mercy in training? Ronan, her lieutenant, a towering brute of muscle and scars, bowed his head slightly. That there is none, my queen. Wrong, she said, stepping into the ring. I said mercy is a weapon. Use it when it earns loyalty. Abuse it, and it earns rebellion. Ronan frowned. They must be strong to fight the king's army. They'll be strong because they have something to fight for, she replied. Her hand brushed the silver wolf's head gently, the glow of her touch closing the wound almost instantly. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. The air shimmered faintly around her fingers, golden threads dancing like firelight before fading. Magic! Someone whispered. Lyra straightened, eyes hard. No! Power! Ronan stepped back, bowing. Forgive me, my queen. Train smarter, she said simply, turning away. As she walked back toward the fortress, Cale joined her again. Every time you do that, you show them what you are. You can't hide it much longer. I'm not hiding, she said. I'm waiting. For what? For the right moon. Kyle's lips twitched into the faintest smile. And when that moon rises, Lyra paused at the balcony again, staring out across the snowy mountains toward the faint glow of distant civilization. Then I burn his kingdom to ash. The night deepened. The moon climbed higher, silver light drenching the world in ghostly glow. Lyra leaned on the stone railing, her fingers absently tracing the old scar at her collarbone. The bond mark had faded years ago, yet on nights like this, it pulsed faintly, warm, stubborn, alive. She hated it. Hated that it still reminded her of him. In her dreams, Darius still looked at her the way he used to, eyes full of tenderness that had long since turned to regret. She woke every morning wishing she could tear that memory from her chest. But even hatred, she realized, was a kind of tether. Your eyes, Kyle said softly behind her. Lyra turned slightly, frowning. What? They're glowing. She blinked. The reflection in the window showed it clearly, gold flickering like wildfire in her irises. The same glow that had lit her veins before, but brighter now, sharper, alive. The air around her hummed, energy rippling across the balcony stones. Her heart pounded, wild and unfamiliar. Lyra, Kyle said quietly, stepping closer, hand hovering near his blade. Whatever this is, it's not normal. Pain seared through her spine. She gasped, clutching the railing as light poured from her skin, curling into golden smoke. The wind howled, and her hair whipped across her face. For a heartbeat, the world blurred. The fortress, the mountains, everything dissolving into shimmering gold. She felt something awaken deep inside her chest, a roar that wasn't human, ancient and primal. Her wolf. For the first time in her life, it stirred. Her vision sharpened. Her hearing deepened. She could smell the iron in the distant blood of her soldiers, the frost in the wind, even the faint pulse of Kale's heartbeat. Slowly, she lifted her head. Her pupils flared into molten gold, glowing brighter than the moonlight. Kyle stepped back, eyes wide, awe and fear mingling in his expression. "By the goddess," he whispered, "you're awakening!" Lyra straightened, chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. The power surged through her veins like wildfire, no longer faint, alive, unstoppable. She exhaled, golden mist leaving her lips. "Let them come," she said quietly. "Let him see what he made." The light pulsed once, blazing across the mountains like a silent beacon. And somewhere far beyond the borders, Alpha King Darius Hale looked up from his throne as a chill swept through him, his wolf stirring for the first time in years. He didn't know why. He didn't know who. But his Luna was rising. Chapter 3. The throne room of Silverfang Keep had once been a place of power. Now it felt like a cage. The banners that hung from the stone walls, once symbols of unity, fluttered in a cold, uneasy wind. The murmurs of advisors and commanders filled the hall like restless ghosts, their voices steeped in worry and fear. Alpha King Darius Hale sat on his black iron throne, fingers drumming against the armrest. His gaze swept over the gathering of generals kneeling before him. Their heads bowed, their eyes avoided his. The scent of unease thickened the air. "The rogues grow bolder," one general said, his tone cautious. "Another outpost burned last night. The soldiers say their leader wields unnatural power." Darius's jaw tightened. "Power?" The general hesitated. "They say she commands the wind, that she heals with her touch, that the moon herself follows her orders." The hall fell silent. Darius leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "They say she?" A younger scout, nervous and shaking, stepped forward. "Yes, my king. The leader calls herself the Rogue Queen. Some whisper another name, one that should be impossible." Darius's pulse thudded once, hard. "Speak it!" The scout swallowed. "They call her Lyra." The name struck him like a blade through the ribs. The air left his lungs. He masked his reaction with the cold composure of an Alpha King, but inside, his wolf stirred. Restless. Frantic. Lyra. The sound of it alone carried memories he had spent years trying to bury. He could still see her, eyes soft and full of light, laughter spilling like warmth through the old halls. And then that same gaze, shattered and disbelieving, when he'd spoken the words that doomed them both. "I reject you." He'd thought it was mercy. He'd thought it would save her. The prophecy had warned him that his Luna would die before her first transformation, that her death would curse his bloodline. He'd believed rejecting her would break fate's chain. Instead, it had broken him. Darius rose slowly, the weight of years pressing on his shoulders. His voice, when it came, was cold and sharp. "Prepare the borders. Fortify the southern pass. No rogue crosses into Silverfang territory alive." The generals saluted and scattered like crows. But even as he barked orders, Darius's thoughts wouldn't obey. The scent of frost and wild jasmine haunted him, the scent of her skin. He had caught it again recently, faint and maddening, carried on the wind after the last border skirmish. His wolf had howled for hours that night, clawing at the inside of his chest. He'd tried to convince himself it was imagination, that she was long dead. Now he wasn't so sure. When the room emptied, he leaned back in his throne, closing his eyes. The old scar over his heart, where her mark had once burned, throbbed faintly. "Lyra," he whispered, "what have you become?" Outside the walls of Silverfang, the mountains groaned under the weight of war. In the shadows of a frozen ravine, Lyra's army moved with deadly precision. Cloaked in black, they blended into the mist, their armor muted, their eyes gleaming with hunger for vengeance. At the front rode Lyra herself, the rogue queen. She wore no crown, only a silver chain at her throat, and the fury of 1,000 wronged souls behind her gaze. Her eyes, now bright as molten gold, flickered beneath her hood. A messenger ran to her side. "My queen, we've captured one of the king's scouts." "Bring him," she said. 2 soldiers dragged a man forward, young, terrified, mud-caked across his armor. He bore the silver crest of Silverfang on his shoulder. His scent hit her instantly, loyalty, fear, and traces of Darius's command. Lyra stared down at him, voice calm but dangerous. "You've crossed my border, soldier. Why?" He trembled. "I was ordered to scout the valley. Please, mercy." Kyle appeared from the shadows, silent as always, his golden eyes glinting like a predator's. "Mercy is earned," he said, "and information buys it fastest." Lyra crouched in front of the prisoner. "Tell me about Silverfang's defenses." The man hesitated, swallowing hard. "The fortress is weak on the southern wall. Old stone, never reinforced after the fire." Lyra's smile was sharp as ice. "Good." Kyle folded his arms. "And the Alpha?" The scout's breath hitched. He knows. He's gathering forces at the borders. He knows the rogue queen is you." Lyra's body went still. Her heartbeat slowed, heavy and deliberate. "He knows," she repeated softly. The soldier nodded frantically. He says he'll kill you himself." Kyle growled low, but Lyra only straightened, her expression unreadable. "Let him try." She turned her gaze towards the horizon, where a faint orange glow marked the distant line of Silverfang's territory. For the first time in years, she would step onto those lands again, the place where she had been crowned and condemned. That night, Darius stood in the war chamber, maps sprawled across the table before him. His generals marked positions with stones and blades, their movements urgent. "The rogues move faster than expected," one reported. "They've crossed the western ridge." "They won't stop there," Darius said quietly. "She never did." The general frowned. "She, my king?" Darius's lips curved bitterly. "You'll see soon enough." His wolf prowled inside him, restless, agitated. The air carried her faint scent again, wild jasmine and frost. It was impossible, yet he felt it, threading through the stone halls like a ghost. His heart pounded with something he refused to name. When he closed his eyes, her voice echoed. Soft, defiant. "Then may your throne rot without me." He opened them again to the flicker of torchlight on cold marble. "Ready the riders," he ordered. "At dawn, we meet them on the field." The next morning, dawn bled red across the sky. Mist clung to the valley floor, thick as smoke. Wolves and soldiers lined the ridges, armor gleaming in pale light. Darius stood at the head of his army, black cloak rippling behind him, his silver eyes scanning the horizon. His heartbeat matched the drumbeats that thundered through the valley. And then, movement. Figures emerged from the mist, cloaked riders, banners of black and silver snapping in the wind. The rogues. Her army. At their center, atop a black horse draped in furs, rode the rogue queen. Even through the haze, he felt it. The pull. The bond that should have been dead twisted violently in his chest. His wolf went rigid, ears pricked, heart hammering. Mate. He drew in a breath, and the scent hit him. Frost. Jasmine. Fire. Darius's vision blurred for a heartbeat, his pulse roaring in his ears. He gripped his sword tighter, knuckles white. "No," he whispered. "It can't be." The mist parted fully, and he saw her. Lyra lowered her hood. The years had carved her into something otherworldly, stronger, sharper, her golden eyes burning with the light of the moon itself. Every warrior around her bowed their heads, but she didn't look at them. Her gaze locked on his, unwavering, unflinching. Darius's wolf let out a low, desperate growl that tore from his throat. The bond, buried for years, snapped awake like lightning through his veins. His soldiers glanced toward him in confusion, sensing his tension. Lyra's lips curved into a cold, merciless smile. The wind shifted, carrying her scent, alive, defiant, undeniable. And for the first time since the night he'd rejected her, Alpha King Darius Hale's heart began to race not with power, but with fear. Chapter 4. The blood moon rose like a wound in the sky, bleeding crimson light over the snowy plains of the moonfields. The air was thick with tension, smoke, sweat, and the electric charge of destiny clawing its way to the surface. Two armies faced each other across the open valley. On one side stood Alpha King Darius Hale, his black armor gleaming like obsidian, his soldiers lined in perfect formation. On the other, Lyra Vale, the rogue queen, her cloak rippling in the wind, the fire of rebellion glowing in her golden eyes. The silence before battle was alive, breathing, trembling. Darius's wolf prowled within him, restless, howling at the scent that haunted the night. Lyra's scent. That maddening mix of frost and wild jasmine, sweet and deadly all at once. It made his blood heat, his heart throb with an ache he didn't want to name. And then, movement. Lyra stepped forward through the mist, each footfall deliberate. The torches behind her burned brighter as if drawn to her. Her presence radiated command. Every rogue in her army bowed their heads as she passed, but her eyes were fixed only on one man. Darius. When they were a few paces apart, the world seemed to hold its breath. Lyra, he said, her name a low growl that carried through the wind. She tilted her head slightly, her lips curving into a bitter smile. So, the great Alpha King still remembers my name. I'm honored. His jaw clenched. I never forgot. Really? Her tone dripped venom. Because you looked very certain when you threw me to the snow and called me weak. I did what I had to do, he said, voice tight. You were dying. The prophecy... Don't you dare speak of prophecy, she snapped, power lacing her voice. You didn't save me, Darius. You saved yourself from the pain of losing me. You chose cowardice over love. Gasps rippled through both sides, but neither cared. The world had shrunk to just the two of them. He took a slow step closer, eyes darkening. You think you understand what I lost that night? I lived what you did to me, she hissed. I felt every heartbeat after you broke the bond. I heard the goddess's silence while your pack watched me bleed. Her words sliced through him like claws. He wanted to tell her everything, that rejecting her had nearly destroyed him too, that every night since, he'd felt her absence like a missing heartbeat. But the words caught in his throat, swallowed by pride and guilt. You shouldn't have come back, he said quietly. I didn't come back, Lyra whispered, eyes glowing. I rose, and then she attacked. Her blade sang through the air, faster than lightning. Darius parried, steel clashing against steel, sparks exploding in the moonlight. Their wolves roared beneath the surface, snarling and clawing, desperate to break free. The ground shook with each strike. You still fight like you're protecting me, Lyra taunted, sweeping her leg low and forcing him back. Stop holding back, my king. I won't kill you, she smiled coldly. Then you'll die trying. She lunged again. Their swords locked, faces inches apart. Her breath hit his skin, warm and sharp. He caught the faint shimmer of tears in her eyes, but they vanished as quickly as they came. Why does it still burn? She whispered. His hand tightened on the hilt. Because it was never meant to break. The words tore from him before he could stop them. Their blades disengaged, and the pause between them felt heavier than the fight. The blood moon glowed brighter overhead, its light thickening, pressing down on the world. Then Lyra's body shuddered. Pain flickered across her face. She stumbled, gasping, clutching her chest. Darius froze, confusion and fear flaring through him. Lyra! She dropped to her knees, her eyes wide, veins glowing faintly beneath her skin. The gold light that had haunted her for years pulsed violently now, threading across her arms, her neck, her throat. Her soldiers cried out in alarm. Kyle rushed forward, but she threw up a hand, her power knocking him back with a blast of wind. "Stay back!" she growled, her voice warped, layered with something ancient and inhuman. Her body convulsed again, light spilling from her palms like liquid fire. Darius stepped closer, his instincts at war with reason. "You're changing!" Her head snapped up, eyes blazing bright gold, brighter than the moon itself. "I'm awakening." The wind howled as the power inside her exploded outward. Her cloak shredded into ash, her aura blazing gold and white, burning through the mist. Darius's soldiers staggered back, shielding their faces. Wolves howled in confusion. And then her wolf form broke through. She wasn't like any shifter he had ever seen. Where others were fur and fang, she was light and flame. A golden wolf with luminous eyes and markings that glowed like molten silver. Her presence radiated divinity, every movement rippling with the energy of the moon itself. Darius's heart pounded, his wolf howling in awe and recognition. "Mate." Lyra's wolf turned her gaze toward him. For a single suspended moment, their eyes met. Alpha and Luna, predator and flame, bound by something older than blood. Then she lunged. Their wolves collided, claws meeting with thunderous force. He countered her strikes, but each blow carried the fury of betrayal and years of buried pain. She was faster, stronger, every move a mixture of vengeance and heartbreak. Her claws raked across his chest, tearing through armor. He retaliated, pinning her down, but her eyes burned into him, unbroken. "Why didn't you just let me die?" she growled through the mind link. "Because I never could!" he roared back. Their energy collided again, lighting the sky with crimson and gold. For a moment, time seemed to freeze, two forces locked in eternal conflict, and then, in the chaos, Darius felt it. The pulse of the bond. Not gone. Not broken. Alive. Her power wasn't hers alone. It echoed his own heartbeat, his own energy. Every surge of light from her wolf matched the rhythm of his. His claws loosened. He stared at her, realization dawning like dawn after endless night. "It's you," he breathed. "It's always been you." Lyra froze, chest heaving. Confusion and rage warred in her golden gaze. "You don't get to say that!" she snarled, shoving him back. "You don't get to claim what you threw away!" But even as she said it, she faltered, because she felt it too. The connection. The bond that should have died now burned brighter than ever, binding them in ways neither could explain. The blood moon reached its peak, painting the battlefield in scarlet light. Wolves and men alike stopped fighting, staring at the spectacle. The glowing Luna and the dark Alpha locked in a storm of energy that made the air itself tremble. Darius staggered to his feet, blood on his lip, awe in his eyes. "The power you hold, it's tied to me. To us." Lyra's wolf stilled, golden light flickering uncertainly. "No," she whispered, backing away. "No, I don't need you." But the mark at her throat, the one she thought had vanished, flared to life once more, glowing gold. Darius touched his own chest, where the matching mark burned beneath his armor. The bond he'd shattered had never truly broken. Chapter 5. The battlefield was silent when the dawn came. The blood that had soaked the snow had frozen into black shards. Smoke still coiled from broken spears and shattered shields, twisting through the red mist that clung to the ground. The war was over, for now, but the storm had only just begun. Lyra woke to the sound of iron gates closing. The air was cold and familiar, the scent laced with cedar, stone, and something that made her chest tighten. Silver Fang Fortress. Her eyes snapped open. She lay on a silken bed, her wrists bound in chains of silver, etched with ancient runes. Her body ached. Deep cuts burned across her shoulder and thigh, where Darius's claws had found her during the fight. She tried to move, but the silver hissed against her skin, burning her like acid. "Don't," came a deep voice from the shadows. You'll only make it worse. Darius stepped into the light. His black armor was gone, replaced by a dark shirt rolled to the elbows, streaked with dried blood. Some his, most hers. His hair was disheveled, his eyes tired but steady, fixed on her with a mixture of regret and awe. Lyra's lip curled. Enjoying your victory, King? This isn't victory, he said quietly. Then what is it? Survival. He approached her cautiously, as though she were a wild creature that might tear out his throat. In truth, he wasn't wrong. You brought me here, she said, her voice low and sharp. To the same bed you threw me from years ago. Did you think I'd be flattered? I brought you here because you were bleeding out, he said, and because I couldn't let you die again. Again, she echoed bitterly. You make it sound like I ever stopped dying. Darius flinched. He set a small bowl of healing salve on the bedside table, his hand steady, even though his jaw tightened. You shouldn't be able to bleed like that, he murmured, eyes narrowing. Your wounds should have healed within minutes. What are you? Her golden eyes flicked up, the light in them cold and dangerous. Your mistake. He gave a soft, humorless laugh. Maybe. But I need to understand you, Lyra. What you've become is because of you, she interrupted, voice trembling with restrained fury. Every scar, every drop of blood spilled. It all started with the moment you said you didn't want me. His hands clenched at his sides. I didn't reject you because I didn't want you. I did it because the prophecy. Because you were a coward, she snapped, the words slicing through the air. You didn't trust me to fight beside you. You chose to protect your throne instead of your Luna. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Beneath her anger was something rawer, hurt so deep it pulsed like an open wound. Darius exhaled slowly. The prophecy said my mate would die under the first blood moon of her transformation. I thought breaking the bond would save you. I thought you thought wrong. The room trembled faintly as her power stirred, the golden glow in her veins flickering like fire under glass. The chains rattled, reacting to her energy. Darius's wolf growled deep inside him, torn between fear and longing. The bond between them thrummed, alive, angry, undeniable. He turned away, jaw tight. You're still my Luna, whether you want to be or not. And that bond, it's affecting more than just us. As if summoned by his words, the doors burst open. 3 cloaked figures entered, their faces hidden behind silver masks marked with runes of the High Council of Moons, the supernatural arbiters who ruled over all packs. The tallest of them spoke, voice echoing unnaturally. Alpha King Darius, Rogue Queen Lyra. The Council has felt your bond across the realm. It trembles the balance of the packs. Lyra's head snapped up. Good, let them tremble. Silence, another voice commanded. You have defied the goddess's design. The rejection bond between you was never completed. The bond remains open, uncontained, unbalanced. If not severed or fulfilled, it will consume both of you. And everyone tied to your bloodlines. Darius's eyes widened slightly. Consume? The magic between you is unstable. The Luna's awakening has amplified it. If it is not resolved before the next blood moon, the pack link will collapse. The wolves of Silverfang and the rogue clans will go mad. Lyra smirked. Then maybe the goddess is finally giving me justice. The lead counselor turned toward her, voice chilling. This is not justice. It is ruin. The council withdrew as suddenly as they had come, leaving the echo of their warning behind. The heavy doors shut, and silence fell again. Darius stood motionless for a long moment, staring at the floor. Lyra's voice was softer now, but laced with venom. You heard them. Your perfect kingdom will crumble because of me. Maybe you should have let me bleed out on that field. He met her gaze, the flicker of torment in his eyes impossible to hide. You think I could watch you die twice? Then maybe you'll die first. The tension between them thickened like smoke. neither moved, neither breathed. Her scent, frost and jasmine, wrapped around him, stirring memories of nights spent tangled in moonlight and warmth. His wolf ached with it, clawing at his control. He took a step closer before he could stop himself. Lyra's breath caught. "Don't." "I'm not your alpha anymore," he said quietly. "No," she whispered, eyes flashing. "But my wolf doesn't seem to care." The chains clinked as her body trembled. The gold light under her skin began to pulse again, faster, wilder. Darius frowned. "Lyra!" Her back arched, a strangled gasp tearing from her throat. The glow spread up her neck, across her face, veins of fire tracing beneath her skin. The mark at her collarbone burned bright as the sun. He lunged forward, grabbing her shoulders. "What's happening?" Her eyes flew open, blazing molten gold. Her voice was layered, human, and wolf at once. "It's your heartbeat! It's calling me!" His wolf roared inside him, his pulse syncing with hers, faster, louder. The air shimmered with raw power. The silver chain snapped like brittle glass, shattered by her energy. Lyra surged upward, her hands slamming against his chest. He caught her instinctively. The heat of her skin seared him, but he didn't let go. Her wolf was pushing to the surface, desperate and wild, drawn to the rhythm of his heart. "Lyra!" he shouted, gripping her arms. "Fight it!" She trembled violently, gasping, her eyes wide and unfocused. "I can't!" The golden light flared blindingly bright, filling the room with radiance. Darius felt his own heart seize, their bond snapping taut between them like a live wire. His breath caught as her energy poured into him. Every emotion, every memory, every ache she'd buried flooding his senses. The glow dimmed. Her strength faltered. And then she collapsed. Darius caught her before she hit the floor, her body limp in his arms, her head resting against his chest. Her heartbeat fluttered weakly against his own. "Lyra," he whispered, voice breaking, "don't you dare leave me again." Her lips parted, barely a breath escaping. "Still. Hate you." And then she went still, golden sparks fading into the air. Darius held her tighter, staring at the mark that still glowed faintly against her skin. The same mark burned on his chest, pulsing to the same rhythm. Bound by blood, bound by fate, bound by a love neither could destroy. Chapter 6. The fever came like fire in her blood. Lyra drifted in and out of consciousness, the world blurring into color and pain. One moment, she was aware of the cold stone walls around her, Darius's voice somewhere nearby. The next, she was sinking into golden light and shadow. Her body trembled, sweat slicking her skin. The mark at her collarbone pulsed like a heartbeat, glowing brighter with every passing second. "Lyra!" Darius's voice echoed, distant but desperate. "Stay with me." She wanted to answer him, to spit his name like venom, but her body no longer obeyed. The light spread, consuming everything, until she was standing somewhere else entirely. A field of silver flowers stretched endlessly before her. The air shimmered with starlight, soft and warm. And at the center stood a woman cloaked in moonlight, her eyes ancient, her smile sad. The moon goddess. Lyra fell to her knees, her breath catching in her throat. "Why am I here?" The goddess's voice was like the wind, gentle, endless, filled with sorrow. "Because you must see what your hatred blinds you to." "I have nothing left but hatred," Lyra said bitterly. "Then you will have nothing at all." The goddess lifted her hand, and the air rippled. The flowers around them darkened, their silver petals turning crimson. A vision bloomed in the air, flickering like flame. Lyra saw herself years ago, kneeling before the pack, Darius's face hard as he uttered the words that had destroyed her. "I reject you." Her chest constricted. "I don't need to relive this." "You must." The vision shifted. She saw Darius alone afterward, his fists bloodied, his throne room shattered. He fell to his knees, clawing at his chest, howling in agony. Lyra froze. The sound of his anguish was raw, real. The mark on her neck burned in answer. "What is this?" she whispered. "The truth," the goddess said softly. "He did not reject you for weakness. He did it to save you." Another vision appeared, a circle of elders, cloaked in silver, chanting words she didn't recognize. The prophecy resounded through the air like thunder. "The Luna of Silverfang shall die beneath her first blood moon. Her death shall curse the bloodline of the Alpha King for all time." Lyra's throat tightened. "No!" Darius stood at the center of the circle, his face pale, eyes haunted. He argued with them, begged them to find another way. They refused. And when they told him the only path to save her was to sever the bond, he broke. Lyra watched him collapse, silent tears cutting down his face as he whispered the words she had thought were betrayal. "I reject you, Lyra Vale." Her heart ached so fiercely it stole her breath. When the vision faded, the goddess's eyes were full of sadness. "You were both cursed. The rejection did not save either of you. It bound your suffering together." Lyra shook her head. "No, I don't." "The bond between Alpha and Luna cannot be undone by mortal words," the goddess said. "Only by love or by death." The words echoed as the light shattered, dragging Lyra back into the world of pain and breath. She gasped awake, body drenched in sweat. The mark still glowed faintly, but the fever was gone. Darius was there, slumped in a chair beside her bed, exhaustion etched deep into his face. He looked up the moment she stirred, relief flashing in his eyes. "You're awake." "Unfortunately," she rasped. He exhaled, half a laugh, half a sigh. "You scared me." She stared at him, the goddess's vision burning in her mind. "You knew about the prophecy." His expression darkened. "You saw it." "You could have told me," she said, voice shaking with fury and grief. "You could have trusted me to fight it with you." "I couldn't risk you," he said quietly. "I thought breaking the bond would protect you. If I lost you—" "You did lose me," she snapped. "You killed me without even letting me choose." The words hit him harder than any blade. He stood, crossing to the window. The dawn light spilled across his shoulders, painting him in gold and shadow. "Every day since that night, I've regretted it," he said. "You think I slept? You think I stopped hearing your voice? I've lived in the ruins of that choice, Lyra. Every breath since has been penance." The rawness in his tone stole her next breath. She looked away, jaw trembling. "You could have saved us both pain if you just believed in me." He turned back, eyes locking on hers. "I never stopped." The silence that followed was heavy, fragile. The bond between them thrummed again, steady and warm this time, no longer violent, like two heartbeats finally sinking after years of chaos. Lyra hated how it made her feel. The way his scent still calmed her. The way his voice still settled somewhere deep in her chest. "Don't look at me like that," she murmured. "Like what?" "Like I'm something worth saving." He took a step closer, his gaze soft but fierce. "Because you are." Her throat tightened. The anger that had fueled her for years wavered, fractured by the truth. For the first time, she saw the man she had loved. Not the king, not the Alpha, but the broken soul beneath. Her walls began to crack. But before she could speak, the air trembled. A distant horn blared through the fortress, a sound that hadn't echoed in those halls for years. The call of invasion. Darius spun towards the door. "That's the outer gate!" The ground shook violently, dust raining from the ceiling. Lyra pushed herself up, the glow of her mark intensifying. "Who would dare attack your fortress now?" Before he could answer, a familiar voice echoed through the corridor outside. "Someone who has waited long enough." The door exploded inward, shards of wood scattering across the chamber. Soldiers rushed in, blades drawn, but they froze at the sight of the man who stepped through the smoke. Kyle. His once loyal golden eyes now gleamed with inky black light. The scent of dark magic rolled off him. Corruption, rot, betrayal. "Kyle." Lyra's breath hitched. What are you doing? He smiled, slow and cruel. Finishing what you started, my queen. You saved me, she whispered. I saved you for us, Kyle said. To destroy him. To take the throne the moon denied us both. But you... His gaze hardened. You fell for him all over again. Darius stepped in front of her, growling low. You'll leave this place in chains or in pieces. Kale laughed. You think you can protect her? You don't even understand what she is. His hand lifted, and the shadows in the room came alive, twisting like snakes. Magic crackled through the air, cold and unnatural. Lyra staggered to her feet, the mark at her throat blazing gold in answer. The light from her body clashed against the black energy flooding from Kale's hands. The floor split beneath them, power colliding in a storm of gold and shadow. Kale! She screamed. Stop this! It's too late, my queen, he said softly. The dark clans have already risen. The age of Alphas ends tonight. With a flick of his hand, the wall exploded outward, the roar of invading wolves filling the fortress. Darius grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her behind him as guards poured in. Stay with me! But Lyra's vision swam, the clash of energies draining what little strength she had left. Her golden light flickered, fading as Kyle vanished into the chaos, his laughter echoing through the flames. The fortress burned. Lyra's knees buckled. Darius caught her just before she hit the floor, his voice distant, frantic. Lyra, stay with me! Her last breath trembled between them. You were right, she whispered weakly. The bond never broke. And then the world went dark once more. Chapter 7. The fortress burned like a dying star. Smoke clawed through the shattered windows, painting the night in red and gold. The scent of blood, ash, and betrayal filled the air as wolves clashed in the corridors. The dark clans had breached Silverfang's last stronghold. Their snarls echoed through the halls like thunder. Lyra awoke to chaos. Her vision was hazy, her body weak, but her instincts roared awake the moment she heard his voice. Hold the line! Darius's command thundered through the stone hall. Her heart leapt at the sound. She pushed herself up, pain screaming through every muscle. The air around her shimmered, her mark pulsing bright gold. She stumbled toward the noise, the heat of the flames illuminating her path. When she burst through the doorway into the great hall, she saw him. Alpha King Darius, his blade dripping with blood, stood at the heart of the storm. His black armor gleamed under the firelight, eyes wild and unrelenting. Every motion was a mixture of fury and grace, the dance of an alpha defending his world. But he wasn't alone. Kyle stood on the opposite end of the hall, shadows curling around him like living serpents. His once golden eyes glowed obsidian, his smirk cruel. Still trying to protect what's already broken, Darius? Darius bared his teeth. You'll regret ever touching my Luna. Kyle laughed. She isn't yours anymore. She never was. Then why do you still call her queen? Darius snarled. Lyra stepped between them, her golden aura flaring. Enough! Her voice carried through the hall, laced with power. The energy rippled, silencing even the fighting wolves around them. Kyle's gaze snapped to her. And for a moment, the arrogance faltered. You shouldn't be standing. I've had enough of men deciding what I should be, she said coldly. The air cracked between them, light and darkness colliding. Kyle raised his hand, sending a wave of shadow straight toward her. But before it could touch her, Darius moved, fast as lightning, intercepting the strike. The blast hit him square in the chest. He stumbled back, armor smoking, the scent of burnt flesh filling the air. Darius! Lyra screamed. He growled through gritted teeth, forcing himself upright. Stay! Behind me! Not a chance! Her wolf surged forward, golden fire spreading through her veins. The ground beneath her feet glowed as symbols of the moon goddess spiraled outward, etching themselves into the stone. Lyra and Darius charged together, Alpha and Luna, bound once more. For the first time since the rejection, they fought as one. His dark wolf energy and her golden flame moved in perfect sync. When he struck, she followed. When she dodged, he covered her flank. Their bond pulsed with every heartbeat. One rhythm, one will, one soul split between two bodies. Wolves and soldiers alike froze to watch them. A sight whispered in legend, but never seen. The twin bond of Alpha and Luna restored. Lyra spun, slicing through shadow wolves with her glowing blade. Each movement trailed golden embers. Darius's claws tore through Kyle's soldiers, his growls echoing like thunder. Kyle hissed, his dark magic flaring. "You can't win! You're fighting the goddess herself!" "No!" Lyra snarled. "I'm fighting the monster who betrayed her!" She lunged. Kyle met her blow with a shield of black flame, but Darius was already behind him. His claws slashed downward, breaking the barrier, sending Kyle sprawling into the altar steps. Kyle rose slowly, blood running down his jaw, and smirked. "You think you've won? Look around you." Lyra turned and froze. The fortress walls were collapsing, the roof caving in as fire devoured everything. Wolves screamed in agony, both rogue and loyal. The battle wasn't victory, it was destruction. Kyle raised his hands again, the black energy swirling larger, darker, a vortex of shadow swallowing the light. "If I can't rule this world, I'll burn it to the ground." He unleashed the spell. Lyra and Darius barely had time to brace as it tore through the hall, obliterating everything in its path. Darius grabbed her, pulling her behind a broken pillar as the explosion hit. The shockwave hurled them into the far wall. When the dust settled, Kyle was gone. Only his laughter echoed through the flames. Lyra pushed herself up, coughing, her ears ringing. "Darius!" He was on his knees, blood dripping from a deep wound in his side. His breathing was ragged, his skin pale beneath the soot. She rushed to him, panic surging. "No! No, don't you dare!" He smiled faintly, lifting a trembling hand to touch her cheek. "Looks like I finally kept you safe." "Don't you say that," she whispered, tears cutting lines through the ash on her face. "You're not dying on me again." He tried to laugh, but it came out a broken sound. "Guess the prophecy didn't say which one of us had to fall." "Stop talking!" she snapped, pressing her hands against his wound. Her magic sparked weakly at first, then stronger, golden light blooming between her palms. "I can fix this." "Lyra." His voice softened, fading. "If this is the price for what I did, I'll pay it." She shook her head violently, her tears dripping onto his armor. "No, the goddess showed me the truth. The curse was ours to break together. I won't let you die for it." The golden light spread across her arms, seeping into his body, stitching torn flesh and sealing bone. But with every pulse of magic, her strength faltered. The bond between them burned, flaring brighter and brighter, until it felt like her soul was being ripped apart. "Stop!" he gasped, trying to pull away. "You're draining yourself." "Then I'll give everything," she shouted. "You once took my life away. Now I'll give you mine if I have to." The energy surged violently. Her golden flames enveloped both of them, spiraling upward like a storm. The fortress shuddered, the runes on the walls glowing in answer. Darius groaned, clutching at her wrists. "Lyra, don't—" But it was too late. The power had chosen. Golden fire burst from her body, racing through the cracks in the floor, swallowing the darkness that Kyle had left behind. Every shadow vanished under its light. The entire fortress glowed as if a second sun had risen inside its walls. The wolves outside howled, bowing instinctively to the overwhelming power of their Luna. Lyra's wolf rose within her, luminous and divine. Her form shimmered between woman and beast, golden eyes blazing as she poured every ounce of her magic into Darius's heart. He gasped, the wound sealing completely, but she screamed as the energy tore through her veins. Her body shook, her skin glowing too bright, almost translucent. "Lyra!" She fell forward, collapsing against his chest. The fire dimmed. The world went silent. For a heartbeat, Darius thought she was gone. Then he felt it, her faint breath against his throat, her heartbeat barely there but steady. He gathered her close, holding her trembling body. "Don't ever do that again," he whispered, his voice breaking. Her lips moved weakly. "Told you. I don't take orders from you." He let out a ragged laugh, pressing his forehead against hers. Around them, the last flames flickered out, leaving only the glow of her magic painting the ruins in gold. For the first time, their wolves were silent, not restless, not in pain. They were one. But outside the shattered walls, under the blood-red moon, a dark howl echoed through the forest. Kyle was still alive, and the darkness he served had only just begun to rise. Chapter 8. The blood moon hung low in the sky, vast, pulsing, alive. Its crimson glow spilled across the ruins of Silverfang Fortress, painting the stone in a soft, otherworldly light. The fires had burned out, leaving only smoke and embers drifting through the air like glowing ash. In the heart of the shattered throne room, Lyra lay motionless in Darius's arms. Her golden aura, once blinding, now flickered faintly, like the last breath of a dying star. Her skin was warm, but fragile, her mark still glowing weakly through the torn fabric of her tunic. "Lyra," Darius whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of her name. "Please." His fingers brushed the side of her face. Her heartbeat was faint, fading. The power she had unleashed to save him had nearly destroyed her. The bond that tied them pulsed between their chests, weak but still alive, glowing in rhythmic flashes of gold and silver. He bowed his head, his wolf inside him howling in despair. "You gave me your life," he murmured, voice breaking. "Now take mine if you need it." As his tears fell onto her skin, the mark at his throat began to glow brighter, responding, pulsing in perfect unison with hers. And then something ancient stirred. A whisper on the wind, soft as starlight, filled the ruined hall. The voice of the moon goddess, neither cruel nor kind, but infinite. Two souls broken by fear, two hearts bound by truth. Rise, Luna of light. Rise, King of shadow. Your bond is your redemption. A sudden rush of warmth enveloped them both. Darius gasped as light exploded from Lyra's body. Not the wild, burning gold of battle, but a calm, radiant glow that bathed everything it touched in peace. Her eyes fluttered open. The glow from within her burned brighter than ever, gold flecked with silver, her pupils shimmering with lunar fire. The breath she drew was steady, strong, powerful. "Lyra!" She blinked, focusing on him. "Darius?" Her voice was soft, ethereal. He exhaled in relief, pulling her closer, but she placed a trembling hand against his chest, the mark beneath her palm pulsing to life. "I felt you dying," she whispered. "The bond wouldn't let me let go." He covered her hand with his. "Then let it never fade again." The golden light between them brightened until it became almost unbearable. The remaining soldiers, the wolves, even the wounded rogues outside the fortress stopped fighting as the glow rose from the broken roof, painting the night in brilliance. Every living wolf felt it, a pull in their souls, a heartbeat in the earth. The call of the Luna reborn. Lyra stood slowly, her strength returning with every breath. The golden light draped over her shoulders like a cloak, her hair flowing in the unseen wind. Darius followed, stepping beside her, bloodied and unbowed. From the shattered gates, hundreds of wolves emerged, Silverfang and rogues alike. They hesitated at the sight of her, awe spreading through the ranks like wildfire. The woman they had once called weak now shone brighter than the moon itself. Her voice, when it came, was both human and divine. "No more divisions, no more hate. The moon gave us the same blood, wolf and man alike. Today, I am not your queen by title, but by bond, by survival." The crowd lowered their heads, one by one. Warriors fell to their knees, the surviving alphas bowing their heads in reverence. Even the wild wolves howled softly, their voices rising in solemn harmony. Darius turned to her, his expression a mixture of pride and humility. Slowly, he knelt, the Alpha King bowing before the woman he once cast aside. The sight took Lyra's breath away. "You kneel to me?" she said softly. "I failed you once," he murmured. "Never again. I kneel not to a Luna bound by my command, but to the queen chosen by the moon herself." He looked up at her, eyes burning silver under the red moonlight. "I pledge my life, my pack, and my soul to you, Lyra Vale, my Luna, my equal, my forever." Her throat tightened. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold still. Then she stepped closer, cupping his face in her hands. "And I accept your vow, not as your shadow, but as your fire." The air shimmered. The moon above flared brighter, its crimson bleeding into silver. The mark on both their bodies ignited in unison, their bond now whole, unbroken, unstoppable. Darius rose, his gaze locked on hers, reverent, trembling with emotion. "Lyra," he whispered, "I should have died the night I rejected you. Every day since has been a punishment. But if this is what it took to find you again, I'd endure it 1,000 times." Tears glimmered on her lashes, but her smile was fierce. "Then stop enduring." She leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was the culmination of every wound, every flame, every unspoken word between them. The blood moon blazed above them, their shadows merging into one as the light of their bond surged outward. The magic rippled through the entire pack, wolves collapsing to their knees as the air filled with power. Every bond in the Silver Fang line reignited, every curse lifted, every heart stilled in awe. And then, as tradition demanded, Lyra's wolf rose within her. She stepped back, her golden aura flaring, eyes glowing like the heart of the sun. Darius bared his neck instinctively, submitting to the force of her dominance, not out of weakness, but reverence. Her voice echoed through every mind in the pack, ancient and powerful, no longer bound by rejection, no longer ruled by fear. "This is our dawn." She leaned in, her canines lengthening as her fangs grazed his neck. The claiming bite sank deep, not cruel, but sacred. Gold and silver light burst outward from the point of contact, spiraling into the heavens like a comet. Darius groaned softly, his mark blazing in response. The bond completed, perfect, eternal. When she pulled back, his eyes met hers, no more guilt, no more distance, only love, unshakable and eternal. All around them, the pack howled in unison. The rejected Luna was now the Alpha Queen. Darius bowed his head. "My Luna, my life." Lyra smiled, lifting her gaze towards the glowing moon above. The wind carried her hair like a halo, her golden light radiating across the world. The goddess's voice whispered faintly through the night. Balance restored. Bond redeemed. Lyra took Darius's hand, raising it for all to see. "Once rejected," she declared, her voice ringing across the valley. "Now revered. The Luna no one wanted became the Alpha the world needed." The wolves roared, their howls shaking the heavens. The blood moon shimmered, fading slowly into silver dawn. As light broke across the ruins, Lyra turned to Darius, her expression soft. "Ready to rebuild?" "With you," he said, "always." And as they stood together, two souls once torn apart now whole again, the first sunlight touched their faces, illuminating the birth of a new era. The era of the Luna Reborn. Thank you for listening. Follow for more stories of Alpha Kings and their Lunas.